So, growing up, my home life was pretty intense. Um, my brothers and I were pitted against each other in a lot of ways. Um, and my dad and I were, we were always fighting. There was a lot of chaos, a lot of tension. But I mean, I truly do believe that my parents were doing the best they knew how in a difficult situation, but I don't think they had the tools necessary to create a peaceful home life. As a kid, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, schizoaffective, anxiety, depression, like all sorts of things. And he even said I had autistic tendencies too. So early on, I was dealing with a bunch of things that I didn't really understand, neither did my family. And when things were getting chaotic, in order to get the fighting to stop, the police were often called, and I'd spend a night or two in juvenile detention, like in the detainment center. And that became kind of a break from it all. It was quiet, structured, predictable, and that created a unfortunate pattern of behavior. Whenever life got hard, I'd end up back behind bars. Jail became a way of escaping for me. And before long, that's where I spent most of my adult life. Um, then there was a lot of physical things that were going on. I had already had some issues, like physically, as far as injuries from fights with my dad and whatnot. I was in a car accident that cracked and bruised or broke all the ribs on my right side. Um, one of my ribs broke into my lung, which partially collapsed, which ended up being trauma to my thoracic nerve and chronic pain, and it left me with muscle spasms that made me a liability for jobs. I'd get let go again and again, and when I was homeless, it was almost impossible to keep steady work. Some nights I was in shelters, other nights I was sleeping under overpasses or behind garbage cans or something. Anywhere that had shelter. A lot of park bathrooms too. And then came my darkest chapter, my sex offense. I'd just gotten out of jail on a paraphernalia charge. My girlfriend at the time had relapsed on heroin and was cheating on me with dealers. And then as I started to get back into the swing of things, had a job, she started cheating on me with my coworkers, and we separated. She kept telling me that she loved me and wanted to have my babies, and she wanted to marry me. She told me the night of my sex offense that she wanted to go look at rings and everything. And I found out that she was lying. I got a message from her phone afterwards where the guy she was staying with, an old friend from high school or whatever, had overheard the conversation and thought that it wasn't right that she was lying to me. Sent me a picture of her writing him. And I kind of broke mentally. I had missed my grandpa's funeral, my last living grandparent, because I'd been fighting with this ex. I felt completely broken, just shattered and alone. I didn't want to live anymore. And in that state of mind, I went looking for a sting up. Initially, it was just going to be drugs, paraphernalia type stuff. I didn't care, but everyone that I was hitting up was actually, or seemed to be actually be a real dealer, until I responded to a post that I knew was a cop. I had cousins that were that age, and I know they don't talk like the cop was. And anyway, I replied, and I got arrested. It's when everything changed for me. In jail, something shifted, and I realized I couldn't keep living like this anymore. I realized I needed to start thinking differently, acting differently, and I didn't have any answers. I'd tried many times off of my own knowledge to figure out my life, and I couldn't seem to do that on my own. So I started reading any self-help or religious text I could find. I started reading The Power of Now, The Four Agreements, The Slight Edge, Becoming Supernatural, Evolve Your Brain. I was studying religion, spirituality, psychology. I even dove into quantum mechanics, neuroscience, and epigenetics. Just anything that could help me understand myself and heal. And that's when I started my spiritual awakening. I started to face my pain instead of running from it. I started going to therapy. I started learning who I really was behind all the trauma and the mistakes. And that's when my comeback began. Not from a place of pride, not from a place of trying to prove anything, but from a place of surrender, because I knew that even though I couldn't figure anything out on my own, I knew that there was someone who was looking out for me. I'd been raised LDS, and I started turning to God, and that changed my life when I really started trying to become like God. And that meant holding myself to a higher standard. And now I meditate, I pray, I try to do good continually to others. I am currently out of work because my background has gotten me let go from most places, and I don't have a great rap sheet. But if you've made it past my sex offense, I just want to share this message with you. No matter how bad your mistakes are, no matter the hole that you've dug for yourself, the hell that you've created for yourself, there is light at the end of the tunnel. No matter how dark the night gets, dawn always shows up. And I learned things about myself and about the world and the universe and God that I never would have understood if I hadn't been through what I've been through. So, anyone who is going through something, no matter how bad it is, keep holding on. It does get better. Since my spiritual awakening, I've healed from basically all of the mental illnesses I've been diagnosed with. None of the therapists that I've worked with or psychiatrists see any trace of that. They see, there's some PTSD behaviors, but that's mainly gone. I've healed from my chronic pain, my muscle spasms. I've healed from a lot of my limiting beliefs. I'm no longer homeless. As you can see, I'm still very much an avid reader. And I have a place. But this message is meant for all of the people who have, like me, done a really good job of destroying your life. I was really good at destroying my life because I didn't think it was worth living. And that mentality cost me almost everything. But by turning my life to God, I gained so much more. And you can too. Believe in yourself because you are worth it. See ya.